Zhou Yu was an important general and strategist who helped lay the foundation for the Kingdom of Wu alongside his lord and friend Sun Ce. He has been nicknamed as Master Zhou, Zhou the Youth by the people of Wu, or sometimes even Zhou the Beautiful Youth, as historic accounts describe him as tall, strong and handsome. His impressive victories against Cao Cao's much larger armies at the Battle of Red Cliffs and the following battle to conquer Jiangling are the highlights of his career, along with the assistance he gave his lord Sun Ce in laying the foundation for the Wu kingdom. His untimely death leads one to wonder what would have become of his planned invasion into Yi province. Born in the year 175 in Lujiang Commandery, his prominent family contained two who once served the highest military official position within the Han government, and his father, who was once a prefect of Luoyang. In the year 191, when the anti-Dongzhuo coalition was formed, Songzhi moved his family from Shouchun to Lujiang, where Zhou Yu met and befriended Sun Ce, who were both around the same age. Zhou Yu invited the Sun family to stay at his home, where he treated Lady Wu as if she was his own mother. An alternate account of this meeting states that Zhou Yu left his hometown to go see the affluential Sun Ce in Shouchun before convincing him to relocate to Lujiang. During the next few years, Zhou Yu ended up joining his uncle Zhou Shang, the administrator of Danyang City. Liu Yao had been appointed as the inspector of Yang province by the Han government, but his legitimacy was not recognized by Yuan Shu, who wanted to control the region for himself. In the year 195, Sun Ce requested permission from Yuan Shu to help two of his family members, Lady Wu's brother Wu Jing and Sun Ce's cousin Sun Ben. Because the pair had once served Yuan Shu, they were not trusted by Liu Yao and forced to leave their positions by their new inspector. This probably helped Yuan Shu, who then allied himself with them against Liu Yao, and allowed Sun Ce to go and provide assistance. Just before Sun Ce crossed the river to begin his attack, he sent a messenger to let Zhou Yu know what he was planning. Zhou Yu then rode out with his troops to meet up with his new lord, who was overjoyed. Sun Ce greeted him by saying, "With your aid, I can attain greatness." Sun Ce's army now numbered at around 5,000 men, where they initially scored victories in battle against Liu Yao. The arrival of Han reinforcements that began to siege one of Sun Ce's cities forced him to go and relieve its people. This act won the loyalty of that city's citizens, as Sun Ce proved to them that he could and would protect them. Sun Ce was wounded by a stray arrow on his way back to continue his march. This was later used to deceive the enemy into thinking Sun Ce had passed away, whereafter they forced the duped officer Zirong to entrench his army in a defensive location outside of a city. As Zirong wasn't going anywhere soon, Sun Ce diverted his attention toward Liu Yao and quickly defeated him in battle at Shui County. This forced Liu Yao, Zirong and Tai Shi to become scattered, whilst at the same time Zizhi had been sent to capture Wu. By the year 196, Sun Ce was already rapidly gaining control over Wu Commandery. At this point, Zhou Yu was then dismissed by Sun Ce and allowed to take up position back at his home at Danyang, as the little conqueror felt comfortable in pacifying the rest of southern Yang province. Later, at around late 196 or early 197, Yuan Shu declared himself as the emperor and also sent his cousin to replace Zhou Yu's uncle. They were ordered to report back to Shouchun as Yuan Shu wanted to recruit the young, brilliant strategist. As Zhou Yu didn't want to upset Yuan Shu, but could also foresee his downfall, he asked to be made the chief of Ju Chao, whereafter he rode straight through onto Wu Commandery and met back up with Sun Ce, who, at around this time, had broken ties with Yuan Shu and declared independence. Around a year later, in 198, at the age of 23, Zhou Yu made it back to Wu. Here he was personally greeted by Sun Ce, who by now had been officially recognized by Cao Cao and the Han central government, as he was ordered to participate in the coalition against Yuan Shu. Zhou Yu was immediately appointed as the general of the household who establishes might, and was given an army of 2,000 men and 50 horses to command. Upon bestowing this onto Zhou Yu, Sun Ce said, "Zhou Gongjin is an extraordinary hero and talent. He's very close to me and we are like brothers. I still remember that time when he brought his troops and supplies from Danyang to assist me in my campaign. I can never repay him for his help and contributions. Yuan Shu retaliated by inciting the local tribes from the Danyang region under Zhu Lang to rebel against Sun Ce. Taishi Si was also in the area and had declared himself as the administrator of Danyang, where he recruited a large number of Shan followers. Zhou Yu earned his nickname Zhou the Youth as he carried out his duties in 3 separate locations before he was ordered to join Sun Ce in pacifying Danyang Commandery. They successfully defeated and recruited Zhu Lang and Taishi Si and spent some time recruiting men and resting their armies. After Yuan Shu's death in the winter of 199, his family and some loyal subordinates of his attempted to flee to Sun Ce, but were intercepted by Liu Zun in Lujiang Commandery. Sun Ce feigned an allegiance with him and enticed him to leave his city, then ordered Sun Ben and Sun Fu to block his return route. He and Zhou Yu then led 20,000 men to capture the capital city within Lujiang. This caused Liu Zun to ask for reinforcements from Liu Biao and Huang Zu. Sun Ce and a cousin of his didn't miss this opportunity to avenge Sun Jian's death. They furiously assaulted Huang Zu's position, slaying 2 of his officers and capturing many of his family, 2,000 men and 1,000 boats. Although Shu Kun, Sun Ce's cousin, perished in battle. Sun Ce didn't stop there. After their victory, he and Zhou Yu marched towards Xiangxia and defeated Huang Zu's weakened forces once more, before capturing even more ships and family members. Next, they marched towards Yuzhang Commandery, as it is noted that Sun Ce relocated many of the residents from these commanderies back south to Wu. I'd like to imagine that they used the ships they had just acquired from Huang Zu to sail back quickly. The elderly Hua Xin was treated as a guest of honour by Sun Ce, and so no battle was needed to be fought to acquire control over Yuzhang Commandery. With this victory, Zhou Yu had assisted Sun Ce in conquering a vast area of land very quickly, hereafter enabling a strong foundation for the Wu Kingdom. During the summer of 200, Sun Ce was assassinated by 3 former servants of Xu Gong, by being shot through the cheek with an arrow on a hunting trip. His younger brother Sun Quan inherited his lands at the age of 18, so Zhou Yu, after tending to Sun Ce's funeral, assisted Sun Quan with his day-to-day affairs, alongside the scholarly Zhang Zhao. 2 years passed until Cao Cao had all but united the northern territories after defeating his rival Yuan Shao at Guandu. A messenger arrived for Sun Quan, ordering him to send a son of his to Cao Cao's capital, so he gathered all of his subjects to help him decide on what to do about it, but they could not come to a joint decision. Sun Quan wanted to find a way to save his son, and so sought counsel later on with his mother, Lady Wu, and Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu highlighted that a previous state of Chu had much less lands than him to begin with, but was able to last for over 900 years. He mentioned that Sun Quan's lands are rich with copper and salt, that income from fishing is plentiful, and his armies are strong, high in morale, and loyal to him. He then asked Sun Quan why he should send a hostage just because he received a threat. If he does, he will start a relationship with the Taos that will be difficult to get out of. He suggested that Sun Quan doesn't send a hostage and observe instead to see how the situation changes. If Cao Cao goes on to unify the land righteously, you can always submit to him then, but if he decides to start a war, which is the equivalent of starting a fire, then he will destroy himself. He recommended that Sun Quan keeps a low profile whilst resisting any aggression from the Tao state. Lady Wu strongly agreed with Zhou Yu and noted that he is only a month younger than Sun Ce was, and that she sees him as a son. Sun Quan happily heeded his family's advice and did not send his own son away. 4 years later, Zhou Yu successfully pacified 2 counties alongside Sun Quan's cousin Sun Yu, and then thwarted an invasion by Huang Zu by capturing the attacking officer Deng Long and sending him back to Wu as a prisoner of war. A couple years passed until Ga Ning defected from Huang Zu to join Sun Quan. When Ga Ning arrived, he informed Sun Quan of Huang Zu's empty storehouses and bad leadership, highlighting how it would be easy to defeat him, and so Sun Quan sent Zhou Yu as the front commander, Lu Meng to be the naval commander, and Ling Tong to lead the vanguard. Their objective was to avenge Sun Jian by eliminating Huang Zhu, and to capture Jiangxia, which will open up a route to invade Jing province. The first little victory went to Ling Tong. He had managed to sneakily lead a dozen or so men onto Huang Zhu's admiral's boat, whereafter they killed him and seized his vessel. Zhou Yu sent his large ships forward up the river, but Huang Zhu had already blocked the path with two of his largest leather-armoured capital ships, known as Mengchongs. As the Wu ships got closer, rocks and archer fire from the nearby cliff prevented Zhou Yu from making any progress for a couple of hours. He sent Ling Tong and Dongxi on a special mission with only the best soldiers they can find. They each donned 2 suits of armour and fiercely fought their way through the barrage of arrows and rocks. They managed to break the chains connecting the ships, causing them to drift apart, which greatly boosted the Wu army morale. It's mentioned that even Lu Meng got involved on the front lines, where he killed Chen in a duel. As Huang Zu's army had no admiral, his navy suffered a defeat to the much smaller Wu navy. Whilst the navies engaged in battle, Ling Tong led a separate force to capture Jiangxia. A horseman named Fengzi was the one who eventually beheaded Huang Zhu, and as specifically requested, he placed it inside a container for examination and presented it to Sun Quan. Quan later offered it to his father's spirit at Sun Jian's temple. A few months passed until Cao Cao's massive army arrived in Jing province with the intention of wiping out all of his opposition in the Southlands. The late Liu Biao's son, Liu Kong, surrendered all of Jing province to Cao Cao without putting up a fight, which caused uproar back at the Wu capital as they all knew that they were the next target. As expected, Sun Quan received a letter from Cao Cao. It boasted that he now had over 800,000 naval troops, and that he wishes to participate in a hunting expedition in Wu. The arrival of this letter apparently caused many Wu officials to turn white in the face. Many wanted to surrender to Cao Cao out of fear, but Zhou Yu spoke up with a different opinion. He criticised Cao Cao for making 4 mistakes when it comes to military strategy. As northern China had not been pacified, Cao Cao still has to worry about internal threats. He also has external threats in the form of Ma Chao and Han Sui, who Zhou Yu mentioned are thorns in his side. Zhou Yu also declared that the men of Wu are superior at naval battles, so Cao Cao's men cannot compete. Whilst they also have travelled far, his horses lack fodder and his men aren't used to the climate change, so will surely become sick. Zhou Yu then asked Sun Quan for 30,000 elite Wu soldiers and assured his lord that he would defeat the enemy. Sun Quan relished those words as he pointed out that Cao Cao feared but a few in the land: Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu, Lu Bu, Liu Biao and himself. As all the rest were dead, Sun Quan knew that he and Cao Cao could not coexist together. He saw it as a sign from the heaven that Zhou Yu had been sent to him and lifted his sword up high, then cut his table in half. He then announced to his court that any who speak of surrendering to Wei shall end up like this table. Zhou Yu went to see Sun Quan later that night and insisted that he stops hesitating. He called the gentleman who advocated to surrender totally absurd, as Cao Cao's claim to 800,000 men wasn't even questioned. He shared his own estimations of the true number in Cao Cao's army at around 150,000, and that of Liu Biao's army at around 70,000. He then reminded Sun Quan that Cao Cao's army was tired from its long march and not united due to many of Liu Biao's old officers distrusting Cao Cao. Sun Quan placed his hand on Zhou Yu's shoulder and reinforced his gratitude that the heavens had granted him such loyal officers, such as himself and Lu Su. Sun Quan also expressed his disappointment in those who want to surrender, such as Zhang Zhao and Xing Song, as he suspected that they were acting out of personal interests, not for the betterment of the state. Zhou Yu's request of soldiers was allowed, although it would take some time to raise them. The boat supplies and equipment, however, were all ready and available, so Zhou Yu, Lu Su and Cheng Pu were sent on ahead with the army, while Sun Quan slowly supported them from a distance, relocating manpower and delivering supplies to them. He said if Zhou Yu were to lose, he should return to his side for a final showdown with Cao Cao. Pei Songzhi thought it was unfair that Zhou Yu got all the credit for convincing Sun Quan to resist Cao Cao. In Zhou Yu's biography, it never mentions that Lu Su recommended to Sun Quan that he summons Zhou Yu to the meeting in the first place, and that Liu Su had already spoken with Sun Quan about not surrendering. Around this time, in the year 208, Liu Bei had also been defeated by Cao Cao at the Battle of Changban. Liu Su and Liu Bei had met up where they quickly saw the advantages to working together. When they departed, Zhuge Liang was sent with Liu Su to meet with Sun Quan to discuss the terms of the alliance, whilst Zhou Yu and Cheng Pu were sent with Liu Bei to resist Cao Cao. They met at Red Cliffs, but a plague had broken out within Cao Cao's ranks, and he was forced to retreat to the northern side of the river after a small skirmish. This set the stage for what Norwich University regards as the largest naval battle in history in terms of the numbers involved, the Battle of Red Cliffs, also known as the Battle of Chi Bi. Although I'm not sure if they used Cao Cao's claim of 800,000 troops, or Zhou Yu's estimation of 220,000 to 240,000. A Wu veteran from Sun Jian's time named Huang Gai earned a great honour in this battle. He looked at the vast enemy numbers and concluded that there was little hope for victory in an all-out battle. He went to Zhou Yu with his plan and pointed out that Cao Cao's boats are all chained together, so he suggested that they sacrifice their own ships to burn the entire enemy fleet. Huang Gai then prepared around 10 Meng Chongs and some other warships, then filled them with flammables. Whilst this was being prepared, he also wrote a letter to Cao Cao to announce that he was going to surrender over to the Wei side. The southeasterly wind quickly carried Huang Gai's nimble fleet towards their target, where he lifted a torch above his head and instructed his men to shout, "We surrender." On that command, they raised their sails and set fire to their ships, before quickly boarding some smaller boats to escape on. The wind gave Cao Cao no time to react to this deception, whilst also fanning the flames to the fire that rapidly spread throughout his entire navy. In one perfectly executed strategy, Huang Gai had saved his kingdom from peril and gave Liu Bei's forces a chance to build a better future for themselves. Zhou Yu and Liu Bei then led their armies together in hot pursuit of Cao Cao, looking to end his life if they could, which is where the Battle of Red Cliffs merges into and becomes the Battle of Jiangling. Cao Cao managed to escape back to his capital city and stationed Tao Ren at Nan Commandery to block the pursuers. As Tao Ren was given many of the supplies that were no longer needed to sustain the armies at Chi Bi, he could now remain in the area for a very long time. The allied forces overlooked Tao Ren's defences from across a river. Liu Bei suggested to take 2,000 Wu soldiers with him and to send Zhang Fei with 1,000 Shu soldiers to accompany Zhou Yu as they crossed the river simultaneously to attack Tao Ren's rear flank. I presume Liu Bei's suggestion to mix the troops would help strengthen the bond between the new allies and also trap Tao Ren in his city by cutting off his escape route. Next, Zhou Yu had ordered Gan Ning to station at Yiling, but he was attacked by some of Tao Ren's cavalry and required reinforcements. Zhou Yu agreed with Lu Meng's advice to provide assistance together and to leave Ling Tong in charge of defences here. This all went to plan and Gan Ning was rescued, but as Zhou Yu returned to the front lines, he was hit by a stray arrow on his right side. It was a serious wound that caused Zhou Yu to not be able to get out of bed, and upon hearing this, Tao Ren rode out to taunt Zhou Yu from a distance. Zhou Yu heard his bellows, which stubbornly caused him to struggle out of bed and to go visit his men personally, so he can raise their morale. When Tao Ren saw Zhou Yu up and about, he retreated back into his city. From here on, the battle slowly turned into a war of attrition, and for over a year, both sides suffered major losses. Cao Cao could simply no longer afford to reinforce the area, and so ordered Tao Ren to retreat from Nan Commandery, granting Zhou Yu control over Jiangling. Sun Quan then appointed Zhou Yu as the administrator of Nan, with his headquarters to be at Jiangling, and granted Liu Bei the lands of southern Jing, as it was earlier agreed within the terms of the alliance. Unfortunately, the final series of Zhou Yu's plans were never realised. First, he wrote an articulate letter to his lord regarding the three brothers and the threat that they posed by saying, "Liu Bei possesses characteristics of a fierce and ambitious hero. Besides, he also has under him generals with the might of bears and tigers, such as Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. He is definitely not someone who will remain subservient to another lord. I suggest moving Liu Bei to Wu Commandery, build a palace for him there, and present him with women and gifts to entertain him. We shall then put the two men, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, each in different locations, If I can use Liu Bei as a hostage and attack his men at the same time, our goal to take over Jing province will be accomplished. And now yet we carve out land for them as a resource and allow the 3 men to be together? I'm afraid that once the dragon encounters clouds and rain, it will no longer be content to remain in a pond. As Sun Quan's attention was still focused on the threat that Cao Cao posed, he didn't want to anger his new allies and create more trouble than he already had, and so did not heed Zhou Yu's advice. At around the year 210, Zhou Yu came up with plans for a campaign to conquer the north, as Cao Cao now suffered from internal problems, so could not attack them for a while. Zhou Yu already knew of the rivalry between Liu Zhang and Zhang Lu, and sought to use it to his advantage by taking Sun Yu along with him to invade Yi province. Then, after that, he would capture Hanzhong by defeating Zhang Lu. The final stage would be to leave Sun Yu in Yi province to form an alliance with Ma Chao and guard those new territories, whilst he meets back up with Sun Quan at Xiangyang to launch a campaign together northwards towards Cao Cao's capital. As Zhou Yu made his way to Jiangling one day, he died of illness at 35 years old. But as he could sense his time was coming, he had already recommended that Lu Su replaces him. Sun Quan was extremely upset upon hearing of Zhou Yu's passing. He expressed his grief by wearing simple clothes to his funeral, which touched the hearts of the Wu people. As he shed tears, he spoke. Gong Jin possessed the caliber of a talented advisor to a ruler. Now that he has died at such a young age, who can I still rely on? Sun Quan then paid for the funeral expenses, and allowed Zhou Yu's family members to keep retainers. These retainers from ancient China would live at the home of their host, be fed, kept safe, educated, and given opportunities that they otherwise would not have. In return, they would offer a wide variety of services, so they are kinda similar to a servant, although they could come and go as they please, and if they felt unhappy for any reason, they could retire. Years later, Zhou Yu was mentioned in Sun Quan's declaration upon forming his empire when he said, "I wouldn't have become an emperor today if it was not for Zhou Gongjing to assist me." If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.